You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
You'll see when we get there.
Okay, I am excited.
But anyway.
Oh my God. Should we start? Is this us
I guess we
starting?
should. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Is anyone out there?
I feel like if you're watching right now, you'll see that the sun is like beautifully coming through the trees.
You look like Edward Cullen right now. You're like sparkling in the sunlight.
Ooh. Tune into our YouTube.
Should I say what's Beaufort Swan and I forget what Edith Cullen.
Edith Cullen.
Yeah, if you don't know,
Edith Cullen?
If you don't know, there's a Twilight book out that Stephanie Meyer wrote that reverses the genders of Edward and Bella, and I had never heard of that, and it exists.
The exact plot as the original Twilight, but just gender swapped. So if that's your thing.
And if you like Twilight in general, right now Chelsea and I are reading Midnight Sun, the newest book told from Edward's point of view. So I will just drop that little hint out there.
Just
maybe more is to come from that. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, I don't know. Grace doesn't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I have no idea what we're talking about, actually. But anyways, we're the Good Evening Girls, and this is Two Girls, One Crossword. I'm Grace.
And I'm Chelsea. You're listening to your favorite weekly Podword Crosscast with your favorite weekly Podword Cross hosts.
We better be. I swear to God.
I swear to Jesus. We say this every time, but I swear to God, if you think that there are two other hosts that you like better than us, invite them over. We will wrestle them.
Mm-hmm. In mud. So pack your bikinis, boys.
Let's do it.
Anyways.
Shall we get into it?
Yes, let's get into our heights and shites.
Let's get into the heights and shites. I had a crazy week at work, so I thought I didn't do a lot of crosswords, but then I went back and I was like, I did all of the New York Times crosswords, so good.
That is a lot.
Good on me, I guess. But still, it was one of those, I went back to these puzzles, like, wait, I did this puzzle? I did this? And then I was like, I guess I did. So we'll see what I can muster up for my hits and shits. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start. I did some New York Times this week too, and I really enjoyed the Tuesday one, which I knew I would based on the constructors alone. It's Amanda Rafkin and Ross Trudeau. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed the theme of this one. So the revealer was 38 across, be patient, or advice seemingly ignored by 4 other clues. And the answer was keep your pants on.
Yes.
So the 4 other clues were all cartoon characters who don't wear pants. So who says that's all, folks? Porky Pig. Disney character based on a Dickens character, Scrooge McDuck. And then there's also Pooh Bear and Yogi Bear.
Amazing. That was really good. At first I was like, I only had the S-O-N filled on at the very end of the answer. And I was like, is this like a Jetsons reference? So I put something stupid in about like, cool your jets, son. And I was like, I don't know.
You know.
And then I was like, oh, no. This is about pants, which I much preferred the pants reference.
Yeah. It would be weird if those characters are wearing pants.
It would
like
be.
Donald Duck. He can't really wear pants. I mean, how this is like the meme with the dog. How would Donald Duck wear pants? Because they'd have to go over his tail because his legs are just like skinny little legs. Maybe he just wears tube socks.
Well, I guess okay, so here's the other thing. Not only are they animals, but they're cartoon animals. So anatomically, how an anatomical duck would actually wear pants is different than how Scrooge McDuck would wear pants, because he doesn't walk around like how like a regular real duck would, or like a bear.
He's
Yogi
more
Bear
upright.
Isn't like on all fours, right? So I mean, you just gotta suspend your disbelief, and relax
and get over it.
Yeah, get over it. Basically, speaking of themes that I liked, the Sunday, September 13th New York Times by Mary Ellen Olflot. The theme was titled Final Offer, which basically the last ER was taken off whatever phrase was the answer. So here's an example of one. 56 across, soup served at the church social, ? And the answer is amen broth. Instead of amen brother, it's amen broth. That was fun. Oh
man, that's smart.
Or 85 across, having no feeling in one's texting hand, ? Is cell phone numb instead of cell phone number.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun. It was cute. I
like
really
that.
liked amen broth, though. That sealed the deal for me. I was like, I like this theme. And then I saw that one. I was like, no, I like this theme. So another good clue from that. The answer is Atari, which we see often in crosswords, but the clue was interesting and a nice little piece of trivia. for all you trivia nerds out there. 8 across, developer of 1982's E.T., a video game so bad that hundreds of thousands of unsold cartridges were secretly buried in a New Mexico landfill.
What?
That's the clue. The answer is Atari. So Atari came out with this game called E.T. in 1982. I'm assuming it's related to the movie. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not from 1982. I was born 10 years later. But apparently the game did so poorly that they actually had to bury the game in a landfill in New Mexico.
That seems a little excessive.
I mean, it does seem a little excessive. Like, they were kind of like, we don't want anybody to know about this.
It's like,
ever.
fine, you guys hate our game so much, we'll just bury it in a landfill then, if that's what you want us to do.
This is all your fault, consumers.
Yeah. Kind of
Again, pushing the onus back onto the consumer. I love it.
Classic.
What else you got?
This is like a light shite, if you will. It just like disturbed me because I didn't realize this. So this is from the USA Today, September 13th by Zausheen Bernakel, and it was 5 down. The answer was elk, which we see a lot in crosswords, but the clue was animal that can weigh over 1,000 pounds. I didn't realize elk were that giant. I mean, 1,000 pounds seems like a lot.
I feel like elks can be like upwards of like a moose. Not as big as a moose, but like up there.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, what is it?
Sounds dangerous.
What's another thing that weighs 1,000 pounds, like that we can like kind of visualize?
Does a horse weigh 1,000 pounds?
Do horses weigh more than 1,000 pounds?
I don't know.
Anybody out there know? Help us.
I have no measure of how much a horse would weigh.
Or how much 1,000 pounds weighs.
True.
So, I mean, if you asked me to carry a bag of books, I would say that's 1,000 pounds because it's just ridiculous to carry. So that's my understanding of weight.
Yeah. I measure everything by the standard Oxford Dictionary weight. So how many books does an elk weigh? Let me know.
Yes. Did you do the September 11th New York Times by Caitlin Reed and Eric Agard?
What day of the week was that?
Friday.
Friday?
Last
I
Friday.
think I did. Yes, I think I did.
That was really good. I loved the opener. One across, fans of the Bible, ? And the answer was palm fronds. Palm fronds. So fans, like to be fanned, not like mega fan of the Bible. I liked that. 17 across from that puzzle. Necked jocularly is sucked face.
Oh, yes, I do remember this one.
Very good. And then 37 across, not on time, but that's okay, is fashionably late. Very nice. And then 61 across, get out of here, ! Was escape room.
Yes. It's so easy to make me happy with an escape room clue because I love escape rooms so much.
If you're trying to woo her, just write her a crossword that has escape room in it and then take her to an escape room.
And I was in an escape room once where it wasn't a crossword. It was like, those fake crosswords that it's like not a square. I forget what, like a word crisscross or something.
Yeah, crisscross applesauce. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one of those. I solved it like immediately with only half the clues.
Amazing.
But I liked USA Today, September 14th, by Amanda Rafkin, 17 across, Spanish lollipop brand, Chupa Chups. I loved those. I studied abroad in Spain, and those were everywhere, and I was obsessed with them. And at the airport, they would sell like gigantic ones that was filled with smaller ones. So it just brought me back. And it's a fun word that you don't see in crosswords very often, but
you should give me a Chupa Chup. What flavors is it?
I don't know, like artificial candy flavored.
Right. This sun is crazy. I'm going to have to do something about this. What else did I want to say? The Saturday, September 12th New York Times by Ryan McCarty. Just wanted to do a quick little shout out. 40 across, kind of mold. And the answer was Jell-O, which I talked about in episode 59, the previous episode. I talk about Jell-O and their molds for Jell-O salad. And I also learned something from this puzzle. 30 down, hiss. And the answer is sibilate. Sibilate is to make that hissing noise.
Yeah, we do that all the time.
So we sibilate at one another for fun.
Yeah.
Come on over. We have a lot of fun.
Sometimes I feel like crosswords are actually listening to us. Do you ever feel that way?
I 100% feel that way, yes.
I tweeted the other day about how Tia and Tamara would be good crossword fill because I've been I actually finished the entire series on Netflix. So I'm in like a big Tia and Tamara kick right now.
Yeah.
I feel like very nostalgic. But there was like 3 Tia and Tamara clues this week between like the USA Today and maybe like the Washington Post or something.
They know.
They're probably also watching Sister Sister on Netflix. But
they definitely are. But yeah. I mean, no, I feel like somebody told us what the the phenomenon is when you start seeing patterns in seemingly meaningless things.
Yeah.
I forget what that word is, but if you remember what that word is, someone please let us know. Speaking of, seeing patterns in things, did you ever take AP classes in high school?
Yes.
Me too. Which classes did you take?
A lot of them.
Which ones?
I took Euro, World, Literature, Language, and Chemistry.
Oh, fucking chemistry, dude. Okay, well,
I
you're
think
smart.
we had to. I was in like this. I also took IB classes. If anyone knows what that is, if you know, you know. I'd have to do those too.
I only took AP Lit and Lang, but the reason I'm asking this is it just made me think of it. This New Yorker puzzle from the 16th. It was Eric Agard, won across AP subjects since 1984 for short, and the answer is comp sci. And it just made me remember all of the things that I had to do to prepare myself for these AP, tests at the end of the year. And my teacher for AP Lit was obsessed with Othello. And basically, that's all we talked about, the whole semester. And she was like, you need to be talking about Othello on your final exam.
Did it come up?
Well, there's a final question where you have to pick any book that you read this semester, basically, and write on this prompt. And I was like, I'm going to pick The Great Gatsby because this question has nothing to do with Othello. So I just felt like I was really underprepared for it. So thank you, Mrs. Burns. Appreciate you. And then also from that puzzle, 37 across, liquid produced by onions, and the answer is tears. We have an onion episode. I can't remember what episode it is, but we do talk about why onions cause you tears. So check it out if you.
It's called layers and something. I forget.
Yeah. If you're curious how to stop tears, check out that episode.
You'll just have to look through all our episodes till you find it. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Alrighty. Well, I'm done.
I'm done. Goodbye.
I'm done. All right. Goodbye, Ron. No, flip the coin, baby.
I'm gonna flip it. Flipping it right now. Tails.
It's me.
That means it's Grace.
Alrighty. So my topic is from the New York Times Thursday, September 17th puzzle by Simeon Siegel.
Oh, is it really?
Yes. Is yours from there too?
No, not at all.
Okay. So mine was 15 across. About 600 million viewers watched its pilot in 1969.
Its pilot? What is 1969? What is that like? I don't know. Brady Bunch?
No, I thought it was a TV show too, but pilot flight, it's Apollo 11.
Oh my God. Okay. So you're talking about the moon landing?
Yes.
She fucking likes the moon landing, folks.
I do. Well, let's just first talk about the moon landing. So, Apollo 11 was the first flight to put a man on the moon, according to science.
If you believe that.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 episodes ago, episode 58, Under the Dome, Chelsea talked about the CIA's covert involvement in pushing abstract art in order to fight communism and the Russians and all that stuff during the Cold War. But art and expression weren't enough. Okay. We also had to prove ourselves when it came to space travel. On October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched the Sputnik 1, which was the first artificial satellite. And this scared everyone because it showed that the Soviet Union could, essentially send weapons across the world if they wanted to. Yeah. And worse than that, to our little American egos, it challenged the claim that America was number one in all things military, economic, and technology.
Wow. Oh my God. It's like America has this really sensitive ego.
Yes. In response to this, President Eisenhower created NASA and started Project Mercury, which was aimed to launch a man into Earth's orbit. So this was in the 60s, and may I remind you that animals had already been being launched into orbit back in the 40s. You listen to episode 42, Mythical Hybrid Space Monkeys, if you want to learn more about that.
You want to learn more. That stuff is just cuckoo bananas, and I feel bad for all of those animals.
They sent all types of animals up there. Birds, no birds, but dogs, cats, fruit flies,
2 by 2
monkeys.
It was like our version of Noah's Ark, actually. It's very interesting.
But we just sent them up there to die. Okay. So before Project Mercury could take off, the Soviets beat us to it yet again with cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin on April 12th, 1961. and Americans were a month late before they sent their American astronaut, Alan Shepard, into Earth's orbit. So once again, the Soviets bested us.
They bested us.
Don't like that. So by the time JFK became president, we were neck and neck, and Kennedy wanted to do something so crazy
Oh my God.
that it just might work. He wanted to send a man to the moon.
Oh my God. Can you believe it?
Yes. And the reason why this was such a big undertaking, aside from obvious reasons, was that it required equipment and technology that was way more advanced than anything that currently existed. So in a way, it kind of leveled the playing field between the Soviets and the US. It was like, okay, we're all going to start from scratch, and whoever can put a man on the moon first wins. This was called the space race.
Right.
So Kennedy started running his mouth all over town about sending people to the moon.
These goddamn Kennedys, I swear to God.
Yeah, he kept talking about how important it was to put a man on the moon. It would be pivotal in space exploration, but also impressive, difficult, and expensive. So it sounds,
You heard it here first.
Yeah. To me, it sounds like a wiener measuring contest.
It definitely
if you ask
does.
me.
I mean, I think that's the whole, that's all politics is about, man. It's like you whip out your schlong, you throw it on the desk, and you say, I win this time.
Okay, so some people were all for it, but as you can imagine, plenty of people were against it.
Okay.
A lot of people were like, why are you wasting money doing this? There are a lot of other issues. So some considered it to be a boondoggle, which is a project that is a waste of time and money, but continued due to policy or political motivations.
Ooh.
I didn't know that word existed, but I do like it.
You know,
and
go ahead.
what even more, I liked that they called it a moondoggle.
Oh, very nice. You know what? I was just going to say that the whole Elon Musk wanting to like colonize Mars sounds like a massive Mars doggle, if you ask me, because it's like, okay, instead of like spending money to like save our climate and like our planet and, you know, just like provide civil services to like the citizens of Earth, let's send men to the moon just to show like Russia that we can do it, or just, you know, to stroke Elon Musk's massive bloated ego. Anyway, continue.
So people were upset about the moondoggle, but JFK went along with it. And at first he tried to make it a joint project. So he even like wanted to work with like Russia for a little bit, or work with other, you know, other countries. And everyone else was kind of like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Nope.
So they were just going to do it on their own. NASA was going to do it on their own. And it was called Project Apollo.
Let's do it.
Well, actually, there was Project Gemini, who was like creating all the technology for it, and then Project Apollo was like the ship, or just like the mission to the moon. I don't know. I don't know that much about space travel, but anyways, they all have like funky names, and that's what I would want to do if I worked for NASA, like make up the names. Yeah,
you're like Grace. You're sitting in the small little like closet office. It's just you, and you're scrunched up with your desk, and they open the door. They're like, name, and
they're like, say a word.
It's like word association. They're like Mars, and you're like pizza. It's like Project Pizza. Off we go.
Okay, so we all know Apollo 11 is the one that finally made it to the moon with Neil Armstrong, but there were Apollos 1 through 10 beforehand. There were like test runs, and sadly, Apollo 1, the first test drive, experienced a fire which killed all 3 of the astronauts on board.
Yeah.
And so they basically had like each ship, I guess, spacecraft had 3 each like journey into space had 3 astronauts, and they like rotated on how they would do it. So it kind of was by chance that Neil Armstrong ended up being like it was his turn to be on. Well, we'll talk about who got to step on the moon first, but like it was just kind of by chance that him and Buzz were on the Apollo 11, the one that was finally like ready to go to the moon.
Okay.
So the 3 men on the mission were Commander Neil Armstrong, Command Module Pilot Michael Collins, who we never hear about, and the Lunar Module Pilot Edwin, aka Buzz Aldrin.
Nice. Buzz is such a better name than Edwin. Good choice.
Yeah, I know, especially if you're going to be a astronaut.
Hello.
You can't be Edwin. No one would remember Edwin Aldrin. No offense to anyone named Edwin out there, but come on. Let's just get real, okay?
Yeah, if you want your son to land on the moon, think about their name first, okay? Idiots.
Or daughter.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So according to Aldrin and Collins, there wasn't a lot of camaraderie among the crew.
Okay.
So like, I guess Apollo 12 was known as being like a really fun crew. Like everyone got along, and they were like, that is not how it was on Apollo 11.
Oh my God.
So Collins was a self-proclaimed loner. He was kind of antisocial. Armstrong was aloof, and then Aldrin was considered difficult to work with. In fact, Armstrong was asked if he wanted to have someone else come up with him other than Aldrin, but Armstrong said that they would make it work.
Could you imagine being sent to the moon with 2 other people that you absolutely hate?
Like 2 coworkers that you didn't like? No. If I'd be like, I'm taking my like 2 best friends.
Right. Okay. So for all of our listeners out there, imagine NASA comes to you. They're like, you're getting sent up into the moon. Imagine your 2 least favorite coworkers, and those are the people going up with you. Like, imagine the tension in that spacecraft. Okay.
Yeah, close quarters too. Although I guess I'd want to bring whoever I thought like would make sure I didn't die.
No bathrooms. Just remember that. Okay.
There are bathrooms. I mean, they
not
have
in the space module. Have you seen it? It's like,
well, it's tiny.
Yes. They're like pooping in bags up there.
Okay. Well, that's the bathroom. For some people, that's a bathroom.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so the mission emblem patch features a bald eagle, for America, flying over the moon's surface with planet Earth in the background. However, the shadow on planet Earth is not scientifically accurate. So the shadow is like on the left side when people say it really should be like on the bottom half. It's like, come on.
Okay, who invented this
Whoever
patch?
designed this? Yeah. It was an artist that they hired. So
let's give them a negative rating on Etsy.
But they should have been like, yeah, can you change that? You know, it's hard sometimes to give feedback, but anyways. So the shadow on the moon mission patch is not accurate, and the eagle is holding an olive branch because at first they thought the eagle talons looked too like militaristic, and so they're like, let's give it an olive branch, because they kept pushing this thing as like, no, this is a peaceful thing, like this is for all mankind, you know how they like to pretend. So this same eagle is on the Eisenhower and Susan B. Anthony dollar coins, if you didn't know.
Okay, it sounded familiar.
Yeah, we all know that eagle. Okay, so we also all know the famous line, "The eagle has landed," which is what Armstrong says over the radio. But that wasn't the original name of the spacecraft. Okay. So the spacecrafts have like 2 names because there's 2 parts to it that kind of break off and then come back together. So Apollo 10, which was the one right before, they named their spacecraft Charlie Brown and Snoopy.
Oh, I love that. Was that the fun crew? I hope that was the fun crew.
No, the Apollo 12, I think, was the fun crew.
Okay.
But the PR people told Apollo 11, like, okay, if you guys are the ones actually landing on the moon, you should probably pick something like more serious. It doesn't have like Snoopy has landed.
Okay, the PR team sounds like a bunch of like wet blankets.
Yeah. So at the early stages, the spacecraft was originally called Snow Cone and Haystack.
Oh, that's actually really cute.
Yeah. But eventually they changed them to Eagle because patriotism, and Columbia because that is like, you know, a U.S. family name, if you will. Yeah. And the landing spot on the moon was called Sea of Tranquility. This is just potential crossword fill for anyone, any constructors listening.
Loving this.
To explain the whole journey extremely simply, Armstrong and Aldrin would be in the Eagle that landed on the moon. Then after they like walked around the moon and like did their stuff, they would get back into the Eagle, get launched up and rendezvous, aka connect with Columbia, which was being manned by Michael Collins, the loner.
Okay, this sounds so scary to me. Like,
before returning to Earth. Yeah, but that's how you have to do it.
I hate it. Like, and this is happening in the 60s. Like, imagine sending like a tinfoil ball down to the moon, and then the tinfoil ball has to like shoot itself back up, and you've got to catch it. Like, how is this even possible? Whatever.
No, okay, well, get this. It's a good thing that Michael didn't mind alone time, because while Aldrin and Armstrong were gallivanting around on the moon's surface, he had to basically keep the car running in orbit around the moon and then pick them up at the end of their night. In his autobiography, Collins wrote, quote, "This venture has been structured for 3 men, and I consider my third to be as necessary as either of the other 2. And I agree, Collins. I'm sorry you don't get as much.
I agree, too. Oh, my
recognition.
God. Yeah.
But, so, in the 48 minutes of each orbit, when he was out of radio contact with the Earth, while Columbia passed around the far side of the moon, the feeling reported was not fear or loneliness, but rather, quote, awareness, anticipation, satisfaction, confidence, almost exultation."
Dude, so he was having this, like, some enlightenment moment.
Well, yeah, he has a biography. Apparently he was like, he had like some issues with the spacecraft, with like the coolant, so he had to fix that, but mostly he was just like preparing the craft to take them home, like it said like he was housekeeping and like tidying up, preparing for their arrival. But yeah, 45 minutes just alone in space like that.
No, sorry, I would unsubscribe at that point.
I guess if you're an astronaut, though, that's
I
kind of
mean,
par for the course, right?
They're like one of the first astronauts, right?
They're like par for the course, right?
They're like one of the first right? They're like one of the first astronauts. How do they even know that this is what's going to happen? Whatever. I mean, nowadays, I feel like you should know if you're like getting into like space travel and stuff. But like back in the day, these people were like the first of their kind doing this shit. And they're like, okay, 48 minutes, no contact. I guess I'll sweep the floor.
Well, this was the first like team sent into space where every single person on the crew had already been to space before. This was all their second mission, but it was their last mission. So I feel like I think that is pretty common. You don't go up that often because.
Oh my God. Well, I can imagine the toll on your body. Like, look at the people at the space station.
Yeah.
Their poor, weakened bodies.
Okay, but let's go back to the surface of the moon.
Let's do it.
How did Aldrin and Armstrong decide that Armstrong was going to be the one who gets off first? So there's some gossip around this.
Oh my God.
In past missions, the commander, which Armstrong was, doesn't even get out. So Aldrin thought that he would be the first one out for a long time. But then he was told that it didn't make sense because Armstrong was closer to the hatch, so he should go out first. But then some reports have said that they wanted Armstrong to go out first because Aldrin was kind of a wild card and they wanted someone who could be quiet and calm and deliver those first messages.
Oh my God. Yeah. The tea here. Okay. Okay. I would be salty as hell if I was Buzz.
Yeah. So Armstrong intended to say, that's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind, which grammatically makes more sense than what was picked up over the radio. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, as man and mankind mean the same thing. Like when you take the A out,
Right.
He claims it was a radio error or static or his accent, but some people think that he just messed up, which is understandable considering he was probably,
really
thinking about other things at the time. But at the time, newspapers published the quote with A in block parentheses.
Interesting.
But now it's said without the A.
Yeah, I think it actually, whatever. It's
I think it sounds better without the A.
Time has let it be better sounding now, so.
Okay, so a bunch of other weird stuff happened while they were on the moon. Buzz Aldrin took communion. He someone sued NASA, or like someone who worked there said like we can't be broadcasting all this religious stuff when astronauts go to space because they'd done that before. And so Buzz Aldrin was like, okay, so he said this like weird thing, just being like, everyone just be together in this moment, and then he like privately took communion and didn't tell people. But the like chalice that he took the wine and stuff up in he like gave it back to his church, so it's still there today, and they use it on like July 20th, which is the day that they went to the moon every year. So I thought that was kind of interesting weird. Yeah. Yes. Nixon called them from the Oval Office. They planted the flag, but it blew over as they departed because they could only put it in like 2 inches.
Yeah.
But then it was set right by another mission later. Okay. And then they eventually returned to Earth, landing in the Pacific Ocean after more than 8 days in space. And they had a quarantine for 21 days in case they brought back any space bugs. So, yeah, they were quarantining before it was cool.
Also, it's funny that, our astronauts can quarantine for 21 days in case they bring back space bugs. But people on Earth can't do it when there's a legitimate pandemic happening and people are dying. Haha. Thanks for listening. Continue.
Yeah. So technically, we won the space race, even though Russians claimed that they never tried to send men to the moon because they thought it was dangerous and dumb when they could just send robots instead.
Is it really?
I agree with. Yeah.
Is it really a race if you're the only one running? USA.
Although some reports some reports have revealed evidence that the Russians had tried, but they couldn't do it. So who knows what you want to believe. The whole landing was broadcasted on TV. 20% of the Earth's population tuned in to watch it, but the excitement eventually died down. No further trips to the moon, to gather rocks and stuff, were as closely monitored. By 1973, 59% of Americans polled wanted to cut spending on space exploration and, use it to help people who lived here on Earth. The Gil Scott Heron poem, Whitey on the Moon from 1970, puts it perfectly. A rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell with Whitey, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bill, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. So,
there you go.
Agreed.
What year did it land again? Did they land again?
1969. We went to the moon in 1969, and then we made a landing that was lunar. Even Stevens movie? Okay.
Yes.
Now I want to pivot to something a little more risque.
Oh my God, she's doing it. I knew she was going to do it. I was wondering.
I wasn't going to talk about this, but
Talk about
then
it.
I want to talk about another clue from this puzzle.
Ooh, okay.
24 down, lunar phenomenon. And the answer is moonset. I'm assuming it's like a sunset, but moonset, like a set. Many people think the filming of Landing on the Moon was done on a set in Hollywood, that it was not. Some people think we didn't even go to the moon at all. Some people think we did go, but the footage that we see was filmed previously.
Oh my God.
And directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Yes,
So-
I've heard this. I love
yes.
this. Let's do it.
I want to put it out there. I am not a conspiracy theorist, okay? I believe in like science and vaccines and all that stuff. I don't want people to get the wrong idea. But this is the one that I allow myself to indulge in just because it's associated with one of my favorite movies of all time, The Shining.
Let's do it.
Let's see. Where can we start? Okay. Also, I don't put anything past our government.
I don't trust
Obviously,
them.
this was done to like prove that we were superior. So I feel like they would go to any length to
Right.
make it appear
If the
so.
CIA is going to be funding abstract expressionism after World War II, like the United States government is going to fake the moon landing. I mean, I'm just saying, like, don't just believe everything you see on TV. Don't believe what the news is just putting out there.
Mhm.
You know, critical thinking is important here, folks. Although you should
Watch.
trust some news. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So The Shining is a psychological horror based on a Stephen King novel by the same name, starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. And the basis of the story is that Jack Nicholson is an aspiring writer, and he takes a job to watch over an isolated hotel during the winter in the mountains of Colorado with his wife, Shelley, and young son, Danny.
Mm-hmm.
To make a long story short, a bunch of weird things happen at the hotel.
Yeah.
Okay. Jack starts going kind of crazy and he like isolates himself from his family, claiming that he's working on this writing assignment that he has. But the wife eventually finds out that he's just been like sitting in this room writing gibberish over and over again on a typewriter. And when Shelley confronts him, he kind of goes crazy on her and he's like, do you know what it's like to have obligations to your employer? Do you know how contracts work? Like, he just goes insane.
Mm-hmm.
So some people believe this is Stanley Kubrick talking about he was obligated to the United States government to help fake the moon landing, and this is what it was like for him to have to keep the secret, like, from everyone. And this film is him kind of showing, like, okay, this is, like, I'm telling my secret without telling it. So why do people think this? In 1968, Kubrick directed 2001: A Space Odyssey, a film which used screen projection technology to make it look like they were in space. And some people believe that this same technology was used to fake the moon landing footage, and the movie was just a test run to see if they could pull it off. And you can watch YouTube videos of people comparing the moon landing footage to 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I also want to point out that the camera used to film, like, what we see as the moon footage is just another, like, a regular camera videotaping a TV screen, because the camera that they used on the moon, like, couldn't stream onto TV. So that was streaming to a screen in NASA, and then a different camera was like filming that screen, and that's what's on TV. The original film from the camera that was on the moon doesn't exist anymore. It's been wiped. Okay. That's what I don't know if that's actually true, but that's like what the conspiracy is.
Sign on to
that doesn't exist
YouTube
anymore.
to
Yeah.
see my shocked face. This is a great one to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So there are a bunch of signs in The Shining, and I cannot go into all of them, but I will hit a couple of the big ones.
Hit them.
One, there is a lot of bald eagle and bear imagery in the movie. So eagle, America; bear, Russia. Self-explanatory.
Do with that what you will.
Two, there is a scene where they're like in the pantry of this hotel, and there's a bunch of Tang up on the shelves in the back, like a ton of Tang, and Tang is like associated with astronaut food in space travel. Makes no sense why it would be in a hotel in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
Colorado. This is by far maybe like the biggest one that people talk about, but I'm gonna maybe debunk it. So the room number in the book that Jack works in is 217, but in the movie it's changed to 237 because the moon is 237,000 miles away from the Earth. However, it's actually like 238 something and some change miles away, although some people argue at the time they thought it was closer to 237,000 miles away. Kubrick has claimed that they changed the name because the hotel asked them to, because they had a room number 217 and they didn't want to be associated with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
However, conspiracy theorists say that if you call the hotel and ask for room 217, it doesn't exist. So there was no reason why they would need Kubrick to change the name. But I, of course, went to the website of the hotel where the film was made, and I emailed them and I asked them, hey, do you have room 217? And they said, yes, they do have a room 217, and they had a wonderful breakfast special for $210 plus tax with 2 breakfast entrees included in the middle of the week. So
nice.
The room exists. I followed up and said, okay, do you have a room 237? And I haven't heard back from them, but
they knew.
Yeah. Okay. So the most obvious piece of evidence that is cited the most often is there is a scene with little Danny, Jack Nicholson's son, playing with toy cars on a carpet. And he gets up really slowly and he walks to room 237, which is known as the moon room among conspiracy theorists. And when he gets up, it's revealed that he's wearing a sweater with a spacecraft on it saying Apollo 11.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of like little stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah. And
my
what
mind
about,
is blown.
Yeah. Okay. So what about Stephen King, right? This is based on a novel by Stephen King.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen King hates this movie. He has said it multiple times because he gave Kubrick all the source material and Kubrick basically didn't use any of it. There are plenty of like FUs to Stephen King's book in the movie that I can't get into now because it's too complicated. But some people think that The Shining is Kubrick faking a Stephen King movie, making a Stephen King movie to show how the U.S. faked a moon landing. And then in 1985, after The Shining, while filming the movie Barry Lyndon, NASA lent cameras used on moon missions to Kubrick to film scenes lit only by candlelight. So only NASA has this type of camera. There's only 10 lenses of it, and they lent it to Kubrick a couple years later. So they had a relationship for sure.
Probably because Kubrick was feeling a little sad, and they were like, okay, well, we'll help you out here, buddy. Just keep your fucking mouth shut.
Yeah. So you can decide. And if this is like any interest to you, The Shining also has a bunch of other imagery about like how it represents the genocide of Native Americans and the Holocaust and all this stuff. It's very interesting. There is a documentary called Room 237 and it's on Netflix and it's not scary to watch it, really. It's not like the movie itself is scary, but the documentary isn't. So if you're interested in it, it's fun, dabble a little. But yeah.
My God, what am I doing tonight? Who knows? Who knows?
But that's the moon landing.
Have you seen this is totally random. Have you seen there's like a series on YouTube where somebody like replaced Jack Nicholson's face with Jim Carrey's face? And they basically like, that's it. And they just re-uploaded The Shining, but now it's Jim Carrey's face. I
feel like that wouldn't change it that much.
It's just not, no. Yeah, no. But it's funny. In some ways you're like, wait, is that Jim Carrey? And you're like, that is Jim Carrey. And then you're like, why did they do this? And they're like, they did it just to do it. Anyway.
Honestly, I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference with my face blindness.
It's so well done that I was like, wait, what? Anyway, you can Google it. But great topic. I am so intrigued. Didn't you, or maybe we have a friend that bought like Kubrick filmed the space landing merch or something.
Our Dan, he has a shirt that it's like Kubrick moon landing crew or something, like a crew shirt. Yes, I probably will buy it because it's funny. But
that is amazing. Yeah. This is a great topic. I'm about to do some friggin' deep diving because I do not trust the United States government.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. And you heard it here first. All right, moving on to my topic, which is from the Wednesday, September 16th New York Times by Paul Coulter. 5 down, like Pisa's tower. And the answer is leaning. So yes, we are talking about the Leaning Tower of Pisa today. Have you ever been to the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
I have not.
Oh, I have been.
Sorry, I'm not as well traveled.
I can tell, like, if you've never been to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you've obviously never traveled.
If you've never taken a picture where it looks like you're holding up the tower, then...
So I have a picture from the Leaning Tower. It's... Like, I look at myself in that photo and I'm like, first of all, who let you out of the house wearing those clothes? I was in Italy studying abroad and like just thinking about how beautiful people dress there and how stylish they are. The fact that I was wearing that, I was like, you look like an American tourist. You never wore those sneakers outside of this one trip to Pisa. Why did you wear them? It's so embarrassing that I will not be sharing it with the release of this episode. So I apologize.
Dude, I feel that way too. I studied abroad in junior year of college, and I'm still like, what were you wearing?
I was a freshman, Grace. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, but that's a little more, I feel like by junior, senior year of college, should have got your shit together. I definitely didn't. I mean, I look at like a year ago, I'm like, what are you thinking, you idiot?
Sometimes I wish I could have gone back. But anyway, so Grace has not been to Leaning Tower. I have. I will not be sharing the photo. But in the photo, I do the famous leaning, holding it up. And the person who took my photo didn't even angle it right. So there's a gap in between. And I'm
it's so hard to get good photos taken these days. Some people just don't get it.
You can't trust people. You literally cannot trust people. So, okay, only take Grace or I out if you want photos.
I will get you a good picture.
Oh my God. And they just don't take the time to think about the angles and the lighting and anything.
Yeah. It's tell me to move my face so I don't look like the ugliest version of myself ever. And then people are like, oh no, it's a good picture. I'm like, that's what you think I look like?
It kills me. It kills me. And it's me, if I'm taking somebody's photo and I'm directing them how to stand, it's not because I think that they look ugly, but I know it will look better.
Yeah.
So that's what you're doing. You're making
all
them
about
look
angles
better.
and lighting. Anyway,
we have diverged.
This could be a whole separate episode.
So yes, we're talking about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Have you ever been to the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Niles, Illinois?
No, but I want to go.
I will take you there one day, and I will also talk a little bit about it at the end of this episode. So do not despair. But first, we'll talk about the one in Italy. So as the name suggests, you can find the tower in Pisa, Italy, which is in the Tuscany region. It's approximately 2 hours east of Florence by train. And much like Florence, Pisa straddles the Arno River. And the Arno, the reason I'm even bringing this up is the Arno is crosswordese. So you see that often in crosswords. So, it's a big crossword topic here, folks. Okay. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is probably one of the most famous buildings in the world. Most people have heard of this structure or seen a photo of it, right? It's actually one of 4 buildings within the Piazza del Duomo, which is a big square, and it's essentially a Catholic cathedral complex. Okay, the other buildings there are the baptistry, which is where you can get baptized. There's the cathedral itself, where you go to mass. Then there's the Campo Santo, which is the monumental cemetery. It's a big building, and there's tombs inside of it. The name translates to holy field because it's said to have been built around a shipload of sacred soil from Golgotha brought back to Pisa from the Third Crusade. Cool. And the whole complex is owned and operated by the Catholic Church, and it is the seat of the Archbishop of Pisa, which means it is still in use. So yes, you can go to mass there and get baptized there and stuff. So what is the purpose of the Leaning Tower among this massive cathedral complex? It is a campanile. It is a bell tower. That's my impressive Italian.
Very nice.
So yeah, basically it is a bell tower. They didn't want to attach the bell tower to the actual cathedral. They didn't want the baptistry on the cathedral. They're all separate. Okay. The bell tower was the third and final structure within the complex to start construction and to be finished. Construction began in 1173, and apparently there's some uncertainty as to who the actual architect was for the tower. And this is important because it's the architect's fault for why the tower leans.
Yeah.
So there's no real way to know for sure who built it because the records at the time were poor, and then people wrote about it years later. And so it's 400 years later, you've got this guy Vasari writing, this is the guy who built it. And it's you weren't even there. How do you know? So it was originally credited to a 2-man team. Excuse my amazing Italian pronunciation again. Guglielmo.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. It's so bad.
The Italian language is just so romantic.
I am so sorry. It's so bad. I'll try one more time. Googly
eyes.
Googly Elmo.
That can't be it. Just say G.
I'm literally crying. How dare you laugh at me? And then this other guy, Banano Pisano, which is much easier to pronounce.
Okay, you can just say G and B.
Okay, so so give me a second. This is bad. How dare you? Okay. So Pisano actually did the bronze casting that you find in the Duomo within the cathedral.
Sorry. I'm the girls now. Okay. Anyone watching the YouTube video is gonna be like, why is she crying now in this part?
Grace made me turn off the camera and then yelled at me, and then I turned it back on. Okay.
Stop making me laugh.
I'm sorry. Don't look at me. How dare you?
Okay.
So Pisano actually did the bronze casting in the Duomo in the cathedral. So that's why people think there's like a lot of bronze casting and things like that are similar to his castings in the cathedral that make people think he did the tower as well. But there's some people who think that it was done by a different architect with an equally difficult name.
No.
His name was Salvi. That sounded kind of Italian.
Good.
That sounded kind of Italian, right? Salvi at the end there. That was really easy. Anyway, so this guy, Salvi, was the architect of the baptistry. Like, it can be confirmed that he did the baptistry. And he also did another tower in Pisa called San Nicola, which actually had similar problems with leaning as the Tower of Pisa.
Okay.
But it cannot be confirmed that he was the architect, and it is mostly credited to the two men before that I messed up pronouncing their names. Those will
not be named.
Yeah. But anyway, so the architect, it does not matter at this point because it has been lost to history, and the tower is still there.
Anyway.
They're all dead, and this tower is leaning, and what can we do? Okay, so like I said, construction began in 1173. It was designed to stand 180 feet high with 8 stories and would be constructed out of white marble. About 5 years later, in 1178, builders were just finishing the 3rd story when they noticed that the tower foundation began to settle unevenly. So the foundation was actually only laid 3 meters deep into what's called subsoil, and Pisa's subsoil is extremely unstable. So the subsoil is essentially like a mixture of clay, sand, and shells, and generally not great for holding a massive structure such as this, big bell tower. So as a result, the entire structure started visibly tilting towards the south. Then, here's a kicker. For the next century, basically, Pisa was in a string of wars with Genoa, Lucca, Florence, so the construction was put on hold. They just stopped. They just had this 3-story thing that was settling lopsided, and they just stopped building it. But actually, apparently, this whole century of rest in between the start of construction and, resuming was actually beneficial to the tower because it allowed the underlying soil to kind of settle further and kind of cradle the tower. And they think that if they had continued building it, like when they had started, it would have actually just collapsed. But it allowed for this to settle further and become a stronger foundation. So then, they had all these wars, whatever. Construction continued in 1272 under a man named Giovanni di Simone, or Simone. He tried compensating for this tilt by adding extra masonry to the short side. So essentially, the upper floors of the tower, one side was built taller than the other. And because of this, the towers actually got a little bit of a curve to it. And because of it, the tower started continue to tilt because it was so heavy.
Call it Captain Hook, as Megan the Stallion would say.
Exactly. Oh, God. Gotta love it. Megan the Stallion is relevant in all points of time. So we got a tilting tower. It keeps going. It's curved now, thanks to all these crazy guys who were just trying to construct.
It's like when you try and duct tape something to make it work.
It's like one big jerry rig that failed.
Yeah.
So the tower wasn't completed for another 100 years in 1372, so 200 years total. The bell chamber was the last piece to be added and finished, and that was added by a guy named Tommaso di Andrea Pisano, and he added 7 bells to the bell chamber, and each bell was representative of one note on the musical scale, which is kind of cool. And so throughout the years, this thing just continued tilting, right? And there were many attempts to stabilize it throughout history, and even to not just stabilize it to make sure it wouldn't collapse, but to correct it entirely to make it stand up completely straight. But the tower continued to slant at a rate of 0.05 inches per year. And by 1990, it was leaning at 5.5 degrees, which was 15 feet. So that's
that's a lot.
That's intense.
Those 0.05 inches add up over time.
They really do. They really do. So in 1990, they closed the tower and removed its 7 bells. The bells together weighed nearly 8,000 pounds, and they began the most important stabilization project in its history. They siphoned earth from underneath the tower, added counterweights to the north end, and this reduced the lean to 13.5 feet, which is approximately 4 degrees. And then engineers believe that this stabilization project basically will keep the tower stable for the next 200 years, barring some kind of natural disaster like an earthquake, for instance. And since 2001, the tower has been open to visitors, and you can buy a ticket to climb to the top, and it costs €18.
You can go inside?
You can go inside.
Well, I mean,
do that.
200 years, so it's probably good, but still kind of
crazy. Yeah, when I was in Pisa, I was so broke. I literally had enough money to get on the train back to Florence. So it was me. I took the train, walked to the tower, took a crappy photo, and walked back to the train. I feel
like a lot of times on any of those touristy sightseeing things, like the Ferris wheels or going to the top of Sears Tower, it's not even worth it.
It's not worth it. I mean,
because a lot of times you can find another place for free to get a similar view.
If you're looking for,
go to the signature room.
Yeah. If you're looking for one in Chicago, don't pay whatever the $40 it is to go to the signature room with 100 other, crappy or hundreds of other
Sears
crappy
Tower,
tourists. Go to the Hancock Tower, do the signature room, buy
and then
an
go to Cheesecake Factory on your way out, and you're Gucci.
You're Gucci. Anyway, if you need more details, just hit us up. We'll tell you. Yeah. So we have some fun facts about the tower, if you weren't thinking that the rest of these facts were already fun. So let's start with this one. Pisa as a city got its name in 600 BC from a Greek word meaning marshy land. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I personally avoid any areas, names, origins that are marshy land when I'm thinking about building my next architectural structure. But that's just me. I mean, obviously these architects had no idea what they were doing, so they were like, let's do it.
I like how it was leaning. They were like, oh, it's fine. They just kept doing it. That's what you need to
Well, first what they did is they took a 100-year break.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took a 100-year break, and then they came back and they're like, fuck it, let's do it. Let's keep doing it.
That does seem very Italian.
They're like, all right, let's do it. So there's 2 spiral staircases inside the tower that take you to the top. One staircase actually has 2 extra steps to kind of compensate for the tower's lean and one side being longer than the other. I thought that was interesting. You can actually still see the 7 bells at the top, although they haven't been rung for the last century because they think that 8,000 pounds of brass ringing may worsen the lean. And I tend to believe and agree with them.
Why even put the bells up there? But the Leaning Tower is just waiting for its bells to be rung. We've all been there, ladies. You know what I mean?
We should go and ring it for him.
Yeah. Ring my bell.
Where else? Since 1987, the entire cathedral complex has been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it's important in the world.
Congrats.
But, back in the 90s when I said that they closed the tower and they were going to, stabilize it, that whole project, right? Okay. Well, what they also did is any houses or apartments within the collapse radius of the tower, they evacuated, and you can no longer rent or live in any of those buildings, which I think...
But the tower's not that tall.
It's not that tall. But
they would hit that many houses?
Well, it's not even just that. It's like what else would happen once it fell, debris and all this stuff. And I think that's really smart. So smart, in fact, that I'm wondering why they keep the whole complex open with hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. I mean,
dude, that's like Stonehenge. In the 70s and 80s, you could just walk right up to the stones and then a stone fell next to someone. They were like, oh, actually, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Actually, Megan? Yeah. So, no, they were concerned about the inhabitants in the square around the tower, but they don't care about that tourist. So, wake up, sheeple.
Gotta make their money.
What else do I got here? Okay. The tower was hit by at least 4 strong earthquakes in 1280, but it did not collapse. Crazy. Apparently, the tower was able to withstand these tremors because of the height and stiffness of the tower mixed with the softness of the foundation actually meant that the tower doesn't move with earthquake ground motion, whatever the hell that means. All I know is that the tower survived. Okay. So who knows? Maybe it will survive again.
Its weak point ended up being what saved it in the end.
It's true. I'm going to talk about, let's see. I was going to talk about some other leaning towers, but I'm going to talk to you about intentionally leaning towers, okay?
Okay.
So here are some intentionally leaning towers. So there's the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. It was built in the mid-1970s. It was the main venue for the 1976 Summer Olympics. The stadium itself is named the Big O, and the tower next to the stadium is nicknamed the Big Ow, in reference to the astronomical cost of the entire complex, which was $1.5 billion in 1976.
You could send a man to the moon for that much.
You could. And so this is like intentionally designed to incline at 45-degree angle, which is kind of cool. You should look up a picture of this building. It's really interesting. Then you have the Capitol Gate Leaning Tower of Abu Dhabi, which is a skyscraper. It has like 520 feet tall, 35 stories high, and 170,000 square feet of office spaces, and it was designed to incline 18 degrees west. And in 2010, the Guinness Book of World Records recognized Capitol Gate Tower as the world's farthest man-made leaning building, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know though. Why'd you want that?
I don't know. But that brings us to the most important man-made, leaning tower, and that is the Leaning Tower of Niles, Illinois. Okay. Mm-hmm. It is a half-size replica of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, located in Niles, Illinois, on Touhy Avenue. I will take you there if you come visit me.
It's only probably 45 minutes outside the city?
Less than that. It's 20 minutes from where I live.
Dude, I don't know why I don't go there every day for lunch.
Hello. Actually, that was one of the first places I went with my boyfriend when he moved out to live with me in Chicago in 2015. Like, his mom took us to like a Target or a Walmart out there, and we drove past it, and she was like, we need to pull over and take pictures. So we have photos in front of it. It's just so random.
You're like, wow, living in the city's so cool.
Back in the day, man.
And you're in Niles.
Yeah. So this was built and completed in 1934 by a guy named Robert Ilg. He was an industrialist, and it was part of like a recreation park for employees of the Ilg Hot Air Electric Ventilating Company of Chicago. The original function was to store water for outdoor recreational swimming pools. And in 1960, the descendants of Robert Ilg donated the park, like the Leaning Tower, to the YMCA. But in 2015, the Niles Village Board bought the Leaning Tower from the YMCA for $10. A steal.
What? Wait, isn't it a replica of the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
It is, yeah.
But he made that to hold water? But he just designed it to look that way? To be funny? I mean, kudos. I'd probably do the same thing if I had the means. I feel like I read some people think it was built, the ground was dug on the 600th anniversary of the Leaning Tower, but like people think it was just he is like kind of like into. He's quirky.
He's kind of quirky. Okay.
Yeah.
So the tower has 5 bells, 3 of which are several hundred years old and are said to have been cast in Italy. Okay. And it is now listed on the National Register of Historic Places as of 2020. So you heard it here.
Oh my gosh. Ugh,
we'll go one day.
Typical American. Yeah.
It's like right across from like a Walmart or a Target. So we can like do a Target run one day. We'll like rent a zip car and we'll take some photos.
It's probably like people who live there are just so used to it. They're like, oh yeah, there's the Leaning Tower. That's like, last Halloween, we went to a Halloween party. There are these people that live in like the suburbs of Chicago.
I don't even know what suburb it is anymore.
Yeah. It's by Gurnee, I think, but it's a gigantic pyramid. Literally. With like a huge like Sphinx statue and then a river, and it's a golden pyramid, and it's these people's house, and they live there. Yes. And it's just like in the suburbs, like among other regular suburban houses, then there's a gigantic pyramid.
And you can like host events there. This was a
you can get married
Halloween
there.
Party that we went to. It was the strangest event of my life.
Oh yeah, no, the suburbs are just so weird.
Random. But people they would ask us like, where are you guys from? We're like, we're from Chicago. They're like, oh, you came all the way from the city? Yeah. I'm like, wait, nobody here is from the city? This is really weird.
No,
I thought everyone from the city was coming.
Yeah. We only went because it was a pyramid thing, but
pyramid scheme.
Yeah, I guess you need to, spice things up out there.
You do. So that's all I got for the Leaning Tower. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for listening, y'all. If you want to talk to us, you can find us on Twitter at The Good Eve Girls.
Or Instagram at The Good Evening Girls.
Or TikTok at The Good Eve Girls.
Come on over.
Until next time, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.